Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Toad TV. I am Mary Beth.
I'm Helen.
We are the creative hands and minds behind Toad Hollow, and 2 in 1 week. Who are we anymore? I mean, it's just crazy.
We're in varying shades of pink today.
I know. This is supposed to be red, but it is faded to pink. Okay. However, it's a very, very much loved sweatshirt. I adore this sweatshirt. I got it a couple of years ago. It's my LBI. And I just... creature comfort. Absolutely creature comfort. And it has a good sturdy pocket, which is very, very good when you wear glasses and carry a phone.
Yeah.
Because there's always, you need to put it somewhere. And as we all know, people who make pajama bottoms that I live in do not give us decent pockets, and things have a tendency to fall out. So rather than having my phone crash to the floor constantly, it's always good when I can put it into my front pocket.
Aren't you glad you came to this video for a diatribe on pockets?
Well, you know what? Pockets are important. I'm just going to put it out there. All right. Today we have something special to show you and to share with you. We have had a couple people ask us if we would put together a beginning EPP project. EPP is English paper piecing, and I go into that more in the video following. But we've had a bunch of people ask us if we would put together a beginning project, and we did. Just for you. And this is actually very useful for English paper piecers, because what we're doing is we've made a needle book using 1-inch hexes that you are going to sew together by hand. And then you sew the whole thing together. You sew the whole thing on felt. You add a couple of felt pieces in the middle that you can put your cross stitch needles. You can have a page for cross stitch needles, a page for EPP needles, a page for sew tights, which are the magnets that are very, very good for English paper piecers.
I'm going to have to add a page for hand quilting needles.
Hand quilting needles. You might want to have a darning needle in there so that when you finish your sewing projects, you have your darning needle that you can just sew in your ends. This is a very cool project. I did this in about 3 hours. I am practiced. I am not professional, but I am practiced.
You just play one on TV.
Yes. At hand sewing. So, and I have put together EPP projects before. So this may go together a little bit faster for me, but it is a great beginning project.
It's definitely doable in a day, a weekend kind of thing.
Right.
And it's a very good, because it's got enough pieces to put together to let you get a gauge for, oh, I hate this, or I really like English paper piecing. Give me the next bigger project. Right.
And you get to do a little bit of machine sewing when you sew the English paper pieces to the felt backing.
And you get to practice some fussy cutting with the fabric line that we have chosen. So
yes. So in the video, I filmed a video of me making it. I'm going to apologize right now. An awful lot of the sewing that I was filming didn't actually make it to camera because I pulled my hands back and didn't realize it, and I was sewing off camera, and all you saw was like my knuckles show up every 30 seconds or so. But following this is a video taking you through the steps of putting together this booklet. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you would like to purchase it, we have 2 different options. We have just the things that you need to make the fabric, the kit. It's the fabric, the felt, and the glue. And then there's an option, the fabric, the felt, and the paper pieces that go inside the fabric. And then there's an option for beginners who don't have any of the pieces that you need, where you can get the needles and the glue as well. So they're all listed on the shop, and you can make your own.
Right. And you explain all about English paper piecing?
Yes, I do. So it's all part of the video, so enjoy.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay. Have a great week. In your beginner kit, you are going to get fabric. This is a 5-inch square charm pack of Tula Pink's Tiny Beasts. You'll get two different colors of wool felt, one for the outside of the book, one for the inside of the book. You'll get 16 1-inch square hexie paper pieces, a glue stick with a refill, and needles, a little container of needles that are perfect for EPPing. Okay, let's start at the beginning. What is EPP, or English paper piecing? English paper piecing is sewing together by hand all these different shapes and making sure that you're getting really nice sharp corners and no gaps in between. If I took two pieces of fabric and tried to sew them together, it's very floppy, and trying to sew them would be difficult because they're flopping all over. When you put in the paper pieces, that gives you the stability to hold it, and it's not going anywhere. It's not flopping all over. It gives you nice sharp lines, nice sharp corners on whatever shape you're doing, and it also gives you that strength that it's going to stand straight without flopping over. So what we do is we take these paper pieces and put them inside the fabric. For this project, we're going to need 16 1-inch hexies covered with fabric. So we're going to have to pick out 16 pieces of fabric from our kit that we got that we want to use. And you can decide you only want to do stripes. You might want to do stripes and polka dots. You might want to use some of the tiny beasts that are included in the kit. First thing you're going to do is you're going to pick the 16 pieces that you want to make into your needle book. I'm going to sort mine by beasts, florals, stripes, and polka dots. With the stripes and the polka dots, I can lay my pieces anywhere in there, and I'm going to get a stripe or a polka dot. So I don't need to worry too much about that. With my fabrics that have the animals, if I want to make sure that I'm going to get the hedgehog in, we're going to have to do something called fussy cutting. And fussy cutting is laying your shape over the hedgehog to make sure that it's completely covered, and then tracing around it. I am using a Frixion pen from X-Ball. The great thing about this is that when you apply heat to the fabric, the pen lines disappear. So when you are drawing around the outside, to make sure that your hedgehog shows up in the middle of it, you need to leave yourself 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch seam around the outside. You don't cut on the line. You're going to cut around the outside with enough space that you're going to be able to put your hexie, your paper piece underneath, and fold all around. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put the paper piece in the middle and then fold these over and baste them on so that he shows up in the middle of the fabric. And there he is, directly in the middle. So I'm going to look at my fabrics. I need 16. He's going to work. This one won't because he's too big. I could do a flower, but I'm not that keen on the flowers. I think I'm going to fussy cut this guy right here. And there he is. I think this one, the bear, is too big. See how he kind of comes outside the thing? So I'm not going to do him, but the squirrel might work. Oh, he's kind of big too. I think I'm going to do one of the bluish butterfly or ladybugs, but this, I think I'm going to go green. There you go. These lines will disappear when we iron it. I may have to do this hedgehog here just because he's so cute. All right, so when you are basting with the glue, you're going to put a line of glue across the top and pull this down like that. Then you go to the next side, line of glue, fold over, line of glue. You're going to notice that now it's getting to the point where some of it's on fabric, some of it's on paper. It does not matter. It all holds. And what is going to happen is when we're done sewing, the glue dries and it's very easy to pull the paper out, because when we're done, we don't want the paper in the project. All right, there you go. And look, there he is. He's so cute. So I have 4 that have animals. So now I need, and I'm going to pull those from my stripes and my dots. All right. Since I am not fussy cutting these, what I sometimes do is cut several of them at the same time. You do not need to do this. If you want to take your time and do it slowly, you can do that. But what I tend to do is I will pick my colors that I want. So it's exactly 12 polka dots. So I think I'm going to do mine all in polka dots. I'm not going to use any stripes. I'm just going to do all my outside pieces or all my other pieces in polka dots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line these up neatly and I'm going to do 3 at a time. I'm going to cut 3 at a time. You guys can go over here. Okay, so I am going to take my hexie, making sure I have plenty of space all the way around to fold over, and then I'm going to draw on one, like so. I'm going to hold all 3 pieces together very tightly, and I am going to trim it. Cutting through all 3 pieces at once, like so. And now I can baste these guys very easily. But first, I'm going to cut the remaining fabrics. Let's baste. Okay, now that we've glued everything, now we need to figure out what we're going to put and how we're going to organize it. We are going to have 1 line of 5, 1 line of 6, 1 line of 5. So I know that I want these guys to be in the middle of the line of 6. Like that. And then we're going to build out around them. So I know I want green here. I put green there like that. Pulls out that green. See, I think this purple, I want that purple there to do that. And then this one I want here because it's going to pull that blue and that blue. This white one I want here because it's going to pull that white and that white. Pink, we're going to put this pink in between these two guys because I like how it pulls the pink here and the pink there. Green right there like that. Put this orange here so that it's pulling from both these guys. And this red is going to pull that darker pink from each of those. Put that like that. Put that like that. That over there. Nope, I don't want that yellow there. Like that yellow against him. All right, I think that's how I'm going to do it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing these together. I'm going to start by sewing this row across, then I'm going to I'll sew this row across, then I'll sew this row across, and much like quilting, then we'll sew the 3 rows together. So to sew them together, I'm going to take these 2 and I'm going to put them together like this, lining up the edges. Right, just like that. Now, you can pin this if you like using a straight pin, or you can use quilt clips. We've included a couple in your kit so that you can hold them together. That way you want to hold these edges together as tightly as, or as closely to the edge as you can so that these are nicely lined up. All right, I'm going to take a needle. You're going to hold your end like this along the top. You want to try and make sure you have fairly uniform stitches, which I do not. I never do. However, I don't let that stop me. When you get to the end and you're doing your last stitch, you just sew, then loop underneath and pull it tight, and you've got a little knot, and then you just clip it. First one down. Moving on to the next one. There are some that don't put a knot in. What they do is they go through the first time. And then just hold it down and sew it under. So as you're going across, you're pulling the stitch down on top of the tail of the thread. So you're basically sewing the tail in. When you are doing your stitches, after you get like the second one in, you don't have to hold the tail in anymore because it kind of holds itself down by itself. When you're doing your stitches, if you do it kind of at an angle, it covers a little bit more space and goes faster. Don't forget when you get to the end, before you pull your thread all the way through. Stick your needle through the loop, pull it tight, and there's your knot. I was so in the groove, I sewed too many hexies together. This red belongs at the end of this row here, not on this row here. So I'm just gonna have to take that out quickly. Okay, there's row 1. This is now gonna go on row 2, where it belongs, like so. And just like that, row 2 is done. Next up, row 3. Okay, 3rd row is done. Now we're going to start sewing the rows together. When you start doing these more regularly, you may think about using different colored threads to sew them together. Like between here and here, you might use a blue. For these here, you might use a blue. Might use an orange here, or pinks and reds. And there are tons and tons of different colored threads out there that you can use. But for a beginner project, the stitches are so tiny you can barely see them. And on the overall thing, you're going to be looking at the overall project, not so much the little pieces. So the white thread blends in enough that you can just do it. For beginners, just go with white thread. Okay, so we're ready to start sewing this together. So we're going to start here. Clip that. I'm going to start at this end and go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start at this end. Since we're going to be sewing the entire line together, I'm not going to knot it at the end. I'm just going to unclip, move it around so that the next piece is ready to go, and then just keep sewing. Okay, as I said, since I'm doing straight across, not going to knot it for this at the end of this one. I'm simply going to unclip, move this around, so now we're doing that edge. Just like that. And I'm just going to continue sewing. Maneuver it around so that you're just continuing the line. Okay, row 1 and 2 together. Now we're going to attach row 3. All done sewing. Now we get to take out the papers. This is the fun part. So you're going to start by peeling back the fabric, just taking out the paper. You may have sewn through it a little bit, in which case just peel it carefully back. You can see my little perforations from where I sewed through a little bit on the top, but really easy to pull it out. Pull them out. Tuck these under because we're going to sew it down to a piece of felt using the sewing machine. And when we iron it, we're going to want to iron those sides closed. And by closed, I mean iron them down like that. Okay, papers are all out. Now I'm going to go iron it. Okay, here we go. Finished, ironed, ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the pieces of felt and cut it down to 6 by 12. It's 12 inches long. It's 8 inches wide, so we're going to cut off 2 inches. We can take our EPP, center it onto the felt, and we're going to pin it in. I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. I'm going to sew around the outside edge all the way around. Then I'm going to quilt it by following the lines of the hexes. Just sewing right through the lines of EPP work that we've just done. Be right back. Okay, so I've sewn it around and I've sewn top stitched inside each of the hexes. That's what the other side looks like. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut around the outside of the hexes, just cutting, leaving myself about 1/8 of an inch all the way around, so there's going to be a little bit of felt showing. Out of my other sheet of felt, I have cut 2 6.5 by 3.5 inch pieces, and I'm going to top stitch all the way around each of them just to give it kind of like a decorative border. And then what I'm going to do is, after I've cut this out, I'm going to line these all up in the middle, sew down the middle, and it's going to be a needle book. I'll be back. Here is the finished product. I have sewn around the outside. I have added my sheets in the middle. I've actually added some things to it. I have my cross stitch needles here. There's a sheet page for English paper piecing needles. Here are some sew tights for holding English paper pieces together. A spot for a darning needle. And it's all set to go.